Great. Thanks very much, folks. Really enjoyed the evening. I've not been at TeachMeet for a long time. It's nice to be back at one of these events. It's fine. It's fine. People do all the time. I kind of just wanted to pick up at the end really about the title of this programme, so new teachers and new pedagogies, because I think we've got a real problem there. As I think we've got loads of new teachers that are coming in, but at the same time actually what they're really doing is that they're not inventing new pedagogies. In fact, quite often when we introduce technology into the classroom, we enslave that technology to traditional methodology. I mean, there are some people in the room that have already mentioned, for example, things like interactive whiteboards, and how do we modernise some of these things? And I think this is the problem, really. I think this is the problem that we'll need to face, because I think at the moment, we've got these new tools, but actually we're encouraging them to do old tricks. I mean, video conference is a good example of this, isn't it? You used to meet for an hour in video conference, and now what happens is an hour sort of face-to-face meeting, and now what happens is we meet for an hour online, where people haven't thought about, well, why don't we meet for 4 times 15 minutes? People aren't thinking about what's the power of these new technologies, and how can we do it. Google Docs is a fantastic word producing tool, but a lot of people aren't using it as a collaboration tool as well. We've got to think about how can we use some of these technologies together to really invent new pedagogies. Because I think we need to be thinking about doing things differently, and I think in Scotland we're really, really bad at this. Class size is an interesting thing, isn't it? If I put up this number, for example, 120 children, it's probably a few more children than Lydia's got in her school at the moment. If you're a secondary school teacher, you might be thinking that's quite a good number for a year group. If you're a primary school teacher, you might be thinking that's quite good for a class size. But I'm not joking about the class size thing, actually, because if you go to some schools around the world, this is an example here in New South Wales, Australia, is actually the class sizes are 120 pupils. Now, they're taught by 5 or 6 teachers, but what they've done there is they've actually reinvented the pedagogy in these kind of big, open learning spaces. And they're actually doing things differently, which is a bit more suited, I think, for the 21st century. And this is an interesting school that I was visiting not too long ago. I think sometimes when I look at this school, and maybe if I asked you, what's this a picture of, maybe you think this was a sports stadium or something like that. But actually it's not. It's just in the northeast. It's worth going for a visit. Dr. Paul Kelly, he invites people coming in all the time. It's Monk Seaton High School. And it's a secondary school. And it's just like a really, really exciting place to learn. If I was going to work in this place every single day, I'd be excited to go there, right? Because they're doing things in different ways. This is the senior management corridor. There are no senior management offices. There are only 2 offices in the whole of the school. One for the bursar and one for the PE department, right? It's a completely open plan. The head teacher sits in the corridor and the children walk past on their way to lessons. Right? It's doing things in different ways and it's challenging the norm, and I think that's really what we need. And of course, if you actually go inside the school, you find they've done other interesting things as well. So, for example, the sports stadium is in the middle of the school, which is great, actually, because what's the most important thing about sport? It's audience, isn't it? It's getting people to watch the sport in the first place, just like audience is so important when we're trying to get children to write and to perform or to do any type of the activities. And they've actually built this school on the cheap. It's quite interesting, really. It's got no wireless in it. They couldn't afford wireless, right, because wireless is quite expensive. But instead of putting the wireless in, they've managed to put in 650 computers for the 750 pupils that are in the school, which means that when you go out and you learn in these outside areas, because there are still classrooms, because we will still need classrooms for specialist subjects, for example science, you're not surely suggesting that we have Bunsen burners in every single classroom. That wouldn't be economic and it wouldn't be correct. But the children, they filter in and out of these open plan computing areas backwards and forwards into their classroom. But it has been built on the cheap, right? Because in the boards up here, all of this is soundproof. It doesn't look quite finished, right? But actually it is finished. And of course it's incredibly flexible. It's an agile space that we really, really need. And it's been completely built around learning, because when you go in, the temperature is kept at a constant temperature of 18.5 degrees Celsius. And why is that? Well, it's because that's the optimum temperature for teenagers to learn. It might seem a little bit cold for us. If you're a teenager, if you're going through puberty, right, you're naturally hot. It's been scientifically proven by Durham University. And of course, the other thing that they've done as well, because it's built around learning, right, it's built around children's learning, is they've changed the start of the day. Again, scientifically proven, this time University of Oxford, that actually teenagers, the best time for them to start learning would be 11 o'clock in the morning. Completely impractical for everything else. So they've changed it slightly. They start at 10, which is really, really good, because it means you have your staff meetings at the start of the day rather than the end of the day. They've actually improved attendance, right, because this is the real comprehensive school in the Whitley Bay area, and it's had massive success in order to do it. And it's been well written up in the news. Have a search on Google, have a search on the BBC, and find out about some of the things that they've been doing there. But I think it's interesting because it makes us actually question, well, why are we doing this? Why at the moment have we got some schools that are broken for 2 weeks, and why do we have 7 weeks in the summer holidays? right? Because actually, I don't know many teachers that are out picking potatoes at the moment. I don't know many teachers in the summer holidays that really help with harvest anymore. Right, so why are we still enslaved in these traditional methodologies and maybe having a fault on learning? And if you're interested in learning, and if you're a secondary school teacher, you might be interested in revision lessons. Right, I've seen some examples of some great revision aids. But this is another thing that they've developed at the school. 8-minute lessons. Right, 8-minute lessons with a 10-minute break. Why? Right, because the 10-minute break that your brain needs, again scientifically proven, right, in order to get the concept to come in. And we know as well, right, because we know a lot about the brain and we know a lot about learning, it's just a shame we don't learn about it very much as teachers, as part of our continual professional development. Right, we know that then if we learn something and we do something contextual for 10 minutes and then we learn about it in a different way, it's likely to go in and that actually improves our recall. And if you're interested in spaced learning, I just produced a guide on it. It's free to download and it's really, really interesting. And it's not just Monk Seton. There's lots of schools, I think, all around the world that are doing really, really interesting things. And I'm not saying for a minute that we should be replicating them, right? But for example, if you're interested in play, the Tinkering School, which is all about young children building things, is an interesting example. Quest to Learn in New York, completely built around games. The Crummington Learning Village, right? Callum from Preston Lodge over here, their school are doing a lot of work with that. That's in the northeast of England. Khan Academy, a completely online school. Horton Academy, right? A 0 to 19 plus school, right? Being built in Dorset. That's got CFE, which is built all around it. Now, what could we be doing here, I think, in terms of Scottish education? Well, what we need to be doing is not replicating a course, but taking the best bits, right, and putting that together and combining that with our very, very flexible curriculum and combining that with a very, very good, I think, review of teacher education and deciding what can we do here to suit local need to get the very, very best outcomes for our children. Thank you.